For about a third of every day, you lie nearly motionless in the dark, and it is easy to think of that time as a blank, the body switched off, waiting for morning. It is one of the most useful misunderstandings in all of health, because sleep is not an off switch. It is a shift the body works, clearing, repairing, sorting, draining, running maintenance that can only happen while you are still. And during those hours, one quiet decision shapes how well that maintenance goes. A decision most people make by accident and never reconsider. The side you lie on. It sounds too small to matter. But for the whole of the night, gravity does not switch off. Whatever position you settle into, your organs hang and press and drain in that orientation for hours at a stretch. The stomach and its acid, the airway and the soft tissue around it, the great veins returning blood to the heart, even the fluid that bathes the brain. Lie one way, and the night's work goes smoothly. Lie another, and you spend hours quietly working against your own anatomy. The body does not get to choose. It simply takes whatever position you give it and lives with the consequences until dawn. And here is the part that makes this worth a few minutes of your attention. Of all the positions, one in particular, lying on the left side, happens to line up with the body's plumbing in a way that eases several different systems at once. Lower acid reflux, an easier night for the heart, an open airway, and possibly even better clearance of waste from the brain. Not because of anything mystical, but because of the simple geometry of where the organs sit and which way gravity then pulls them. The 8 hours are not neutral. They are a setting you choose once and then sleep through. And after 50, when those systems are already under more strain, that single setting starts to matter a great deal. To see why one side is different from another, look at where the organs actually sit. Because the whole effect is gravity acting on ordinary anatomy. Start with the stomach and the acid it holds. The stomach sits slightly to the left, and the tube that connects it to the throat, the esophagus, joins it at an angle, with the junction higher on the right side of the stomach. When you lie on your left side, that junction ends up above the pool of stomach acid, so gravity helps keep the acid down where it belongs. Lie on your right side, or flat on your back, and the junction can sit at or below the level of the acid, so the acid is free to wash up into the esophagus. This is not a theory, it has been measured. Studies recording the acidity inside the esophagus through the night consistently find more reflux and longer acid exposure when people lie on the right side or supine than when they lie on the left. For anyone prone to heartburn, the side of the body is, quite literally, a valve. Remotion, fact card title. Left side and the stomach, line. Acid pools below the esophageal junction, line. Measured, less nighttime reflux on the left, position, lower third, dure 5s. Now the airway, where lying flat on the back, causes a different problem. When you are supine, gravity pulls the tongue and the soft tissue of the throat backward, toward the back wall of the airway. In a relaxed sleeping body, that can narrow or briefly block the airway, producing the snoring and the repeated pauses of obstructive sleep apnea. The effect is strong enough that it has a name: positional sleep apnea. And for many people, the number of breathing interruptions per hour is markedly higher on the back than on the side. Turn onto your side, and the tongue falls to the side instead of straight back, and the airway tends to stay open. So the same body, in the same sleep, breathes more freely on its side than on its back. Remotion, counter label. Supine, tongue falls back, airway narrows, positional apnea. From =0 to =1, prefix equals, pause equals upper third, dur equals 4 seconds. Then there is the brain, and this is the newest and most striking piece, though it comes with an honest caveat. During deep sleep, the brain runs a cleaning system, the Glymphatics system, in which fluid is pushed through the brain tissue to flush out metabolic waste that builds up during waking hours. Research has shown that this clearance is far more active during sleep than during waking. The cleaning is one of the reasons sleep is non-negotiable. And in animal studies using brain imaging, that waste clearance was found to be most efficient when the body was in the lateral position, on its side, compared with lying on the back or front. The honest qualifier is that this particular finding is so far largely from animal work, not yet proven to the same degree in humans. But it points the same direction as everything else. The side appears to be the orientation the body's overnight maintenance prefers. There is a fourth system worth adding, because it explains why so many people instinctively avoid their back as they age: the heart. When you lie flat on your back, all the blood that pools in the legs and abdomen returns more abruptly toward the chest, and the heart has to manage that load, lying in its least favorable orientation. On the side, the return is gentler, and the heart sits more comfortably in the chest. This is why people with any degree of heart strain so reliably report that they sleep better and breathe more easily. Propped up or turned onto their side, the position is doing part of the work of easing the heart's job through the night. It is the same theme once more. Not a special trick, just the cardiovascular plumbing, preferring one orientation over another. Put the four together, and the logic is consistent. The stomach drains better, the airway stays more open, the heart fills and empties more easily, and the brain may clear waste more effectively, all in the same lateral position, all for the same kind of reason: gravity acting on where the organs sit. The body spends the night doing essential work, and the side you lie on either helps that work or quietly fights it, hour after hour, for years. Set 2 nights side by side, the same person and the same hours of sleep, differing only in position, and watch how differently the night goes. Take the night on the back first, the position many people drift into. Flat and supine, the tongue and soft palate sag toward the back of the throat, so the airway is at its most vulnerable, and snoring and apnea are at their worst. The esophageal junction sits unprotected relative to the stomach's acid, so reflux has its easiest path upward, and the brain's overnight clearance, if the animal findings hold, is at its least efficient orientation. None of this wakes the sleeper in an obvious way. There is no alarm. But across the hours, the airway struggles, the acid creeps, and the body does its maintenance against the grain. It is the position in which the most systems are working hardest for the least result. Remotion bar chart. Title: How well the night's work goes. Bar 1 underscore label equals flat on the back. Bar 1 underscore value equals 35. Bar 2 underscore label equals on the left side. Bar 2 underscore value equals 100. Pause equals center. Dur equals 5 seconds. Now the night on the left side. The esophageal junction rides above the acid, so reflux is at its lowest. The tongue falls to the side rather than back, so the airway stays more open and breathing is steadier. The lateral orientation is the one the brain's cleaning system appears to favor. And there is a bonus for the heart. Lying on the side, rather than flat, eases the way blood returns to it and the way it fills and empties, which is part of why people with heart strain are so often more comfortable on their side. Same sleeper, same 8 hours, same fatigue to recover from. But a night spent working with the anatomy instead of against it. And the difference is not only in the machinery, it shows up in how the morning feels, even when the sleeper noticed nothing in the night. A night spent on the back, with the airway half collapsing and breathing repeatedly interrupted. Fragments sleep into shallow pieces, so the person wakes unrefreshed and blames the hours or their age, never suspecting the position. A night spent on the side, breathing steadily, lets sleep run its full deep cycles. The reflux works the same way. The acid that creeps up unnoticed at 3 in the morning leaves a sore throat, a hoarse voice, or a cough that gets blamed on everything except the way the body was lying. The 2 nights feel different in the morning precisely because the body was either helped or hindered, while it could not tell you which. Notice what separates the 2 nights. Nothing but orientation. No pill, no device, no change to the hours slept or the mattress beneath. Just which way the body faces gravity for the night. That is what makes sleep position such an unusual lever. It is completely free, it requires no effort once you are asleep, and it acts on several of the most important overnight systems at once. The cost of the better night is only the decision of which side to settle onto before you drift off. It is worth being clear about why the back, specifically, is the position to avoid, because back sleeping has a reputation as the neutral, or even the proper way to lie. For the spine alone, lying flat can be fine, but the back is precisely the orientation in which gravity does the most harm to everything else. It pulls the tongue into the airway, leaves the acid free to climb, and loads the heart most abruptly. So the position that feels neutral is, for the airway and the stomach and the heart, the worst of the three. The side is not a quirky preference, it is the orientation that protects the most systems, and the back is the one that exposes them. For a young, resilient body, much of this is forgiving. The airway is firmer, the valve at the top of the stomach is tighter, sleep is deeper, and the body absorbs a poor position without obvious cost. After about 50, several of those margins thin at once, and the position you sleep in stops being trivial and starts being one of the cheapest protections available. The first change is reflux. The muscular valve at the junction of the esophagus and stomach weakens with age, and nighttime heartburn and acid reflux become far more common in later life. Reflux is not only uncomfortable, acid washing into the esophagus through the night, year after year, damages the lining and is linked to more serious problems over time. As that valve weakens, the gravity assist from lying on the left side matters more, not less. Remotion, call-out text. After 50, weaker valves, looser airway, lighter sleep, position matters more. Pose, lower third, dure fives. The second is the airway. With age, the muscle tone of the throat declines and the soft tissues lose firmness, so the airway is more prone to collapsing backward when supine. Obstructive sleep apnea climbs steadily with age, and so does ordinary snoring, and both are worse on the back. The same supine position that a 30-year-old throat tolerated now produces real interruptions in breathing, and those interruptions fragment sleep and strain the heart over the long run. Simply staying off the back removes a large part of the problem for many people. There is also the heart and circulation, which after 50 are far more often carrying some quiet burden, a stiffer heart, higher blood pressure, the early strain that may not yet have a name. For a heart working harder than it used to, the gentler venous return and easier filling of the side position is a small nightly kindness, and the reason cardiologists so often find their patients have already, on their own, stopped sleeping flat. Lying supine asks the most of the cardiovascular system at the age it can least spare it. The third is everything else that makes later sleep lighter and more easily disturbed, including the waking to urinate covered in its own right, and the general truth that older sleep is shallower and more fragile, so anything that smooths the night pays off more. A younger body that briefly stops breathing on its back, rouses, turns, and recovers without ever surfacing. An older body, sleeping lighter and turning less, is more likely to spend long stretches in the bad position and to have its sleep broken by the consequences. The margins that once hid a poor position have thinned, so the position itself shows through. Put together, the picture is clear. At exactly the age when reflux, apnea, and fragile sleep all worsen, there is a single free adjustment that pushes back on all of them at once. The position mattered a little at 30. At 60, it is one of the simplest, meaningful things you can change. If the left side is the orientation that eases the most systems, then the protocol is simply to sleep there. And the only real challenge is staying there, because a sleeping body drifts. Here is how to set the position and make it hold, and the honest limits of it. The core instruction is to fall asleep on your left side. Settling onto the left to begin the night is the single highest value move. It puts you in the low reflux, open airway, lateral clearance position for at least the first part of the night, when deep sleep, and the brain's clearance with it, is most concentrated. If left is uncomfortable, either side is far better than flat on the back. The biggest single gain for most people is simply getting off the back, and the left side adds the reflux and circulatory benefits on top. Remotion, counter-label, fall asleep on the left side, any side beats flat on the back. From 0 to BAM1 suffix, pose upper third, dure fours. Then help the position hold through the night. A firm pillow tucked along your back makes it harder to roll flat onto your spine, and a pillow hugged in front or placed between the knees keeps the hips and shoulders comfortable so you stay on your side longer. An old trick for committed back sleepers is to sew or pin something bulky, even a tennis ball, into the back of a sleep shirt, so that rolling onto the back is uncomfortable enough to nudge you back to your side without waking you. And if reflux is the main concern, raising the head of the bed by a few inches, propping the bed frame, or using a wedge under the mattress, not just stacking pillows under your head, adds gravity's help along the whole torso and compounds the benefit of the left side. It also helps to understand that you do not need to stay on your left side all night long for this to be worth doing. And you almost certainly will not. Everyone shifts position in their sleep. The goal is not perfect stillness, but to bias the night toward the better position, especially the first stretch after you fall asleep, which holds the deepest and most restorative sleep. If you start on the left and drift, you have still spent your most valuable hours in the right orientation. Think of it as setting the default, not enforcing a rule. Over a few weeks, falling asleep on the left becomes a habit the body adopts on its own, and you spend a steadily larger share of the night there without any effort. A few honest limits belong here. If you have a shoulder problem that side sleeping aggravates, you will have to balance comfort against these benefits, and a body pillow to offload the shoulder or a softer surface under it can help. In pregnancy, the left side is specifically recommended for circulation, but that is its own topic and worth discussing with a doctor. The brain clearance benefit of the lateral position, as noted, rests heavily on animal data and should be taken as promising rather than proven. And severe snoring, choking, or gasping at night, or daytime exhaustion despite enough hours, can signal real obstructive sleep apnea, which position can help but not necessarily cure. That deserves a medical evaluation, not just a change of pillow. Within those limits, though, the move is about as simple and safe as health advice gets. Choose the left side, prop yourself to stay there, and let the night do its work with the anatomy instead of against it. It is worth ending where we began, with the strange fact that a third of life is spent in a position most people never deliberately choose. We agonize over what to eat and which exercise to do. Daytime decisions that demand effort and willpower, repeated again and again. And meanwhile, the body does some of its most important work at night, on its own, asking nothing of us except that we lie still and give it a little time. The side we offer it for that work is decided, usually by nothing more than habit. And unlike most of what we are told about sleep, it does not ask you to find more hours, or to give up the evening, or to buy anything. The hours are already being spent. The only question is what the body is allowed to do with them. That is what makes this one of the rare pieces of health advice that costs nothing and demands nothing. You do not have to stay awake to do it, or push through discomfort, or remember it hour by hour. You set the position once as you fall asleep, and then you are unconscious while it works. The acid held down, the airway held open, the blood returning easily, the brain, very likely, cleaning itself a little better. A single decision at the edge of sleep, paying out quietly across 8 hours every night. There is a quiet economy to it that is almost unique in health. Most good habits demand a daily payment of effort or discomfort. The meal resisted, the walk taken, the early alarm obeyed. This one is paid once, at the threshold of sleep, in the act of turning on to a particular side, and then it works entirely on its own while you are unconscious, with no further cost. Few things give so much for so little, and fewer still keep giving, night after night, for the rest of your life, simply because you formed the habit of starting on the left. So tonight, when you lie down, choose the side instead of letting habit choose it for you. Settle onto your left, prop yourself so you stay there, and let the dark hours run the way the body would run them if it could choose. Sleep is not the body switching off, it is the body going to work, and the side you lie on is how you decide in advance whether that work goes with the grain or against it.